Good afternoon, everyone. Engineer Pat 5290 coming to you with a Labor Day edition of Model Railroad Mondays for the month of September. It is great to have all of you guys on here. We do have a lot of good topics we could talk about today, so just wait for everybody to come on. We're here to talk about model trains, different releases that Athearn's got coming out, and Walthers and everybody, and maybe some model railroad tips and even some questions I may be able to help you with. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay on back and see who comes on, and we'll be going from there. Steve Casey, Railfan's on. Hey, man, how's it going? So the fun's just getting ready to start. So go ahead and set down the hobby knife, and also go ahead and grab yourself an ice cold beverage of your choice and a nice snack, and we are ready to get underway. So we do have Steve on here right now. We're just waiting on some more guys to come on in and start asking questions. We can get this party rolling. So we do have some more guys up here now, so please feel free to drop a comment. Oh, also Trainman 1993 and the Mom Sons of Rail Train Productions. Hey guys, what's going on? Awesome, Steve. Just run BSF Mixed Freight right now for Labor Day. That's awesome to hear. What's your lash up right now for your train? So now the party's really getting underway, and can't wait to see what you guys have and maybe some questions that you may ask. I'm here to help you guys out in any way I can. So hope everybody's enjoying their Labor Day, and hope everybody's enjoying the time with their families on this day as well, and hope everybody's enjoyed it. Standard Case Railroader is on. Hey man, how's it going? Trainman 1993 says, I was going to run my Aristocrat Pennsylvania Alco FA one day, but probably not right now. Oh, wow, I didn't know you had one of those. Mom and Sons Train Rail Fans. Ray got his controller, and he's happy, and happy Labor Day. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Same to you. Same to you. Thoughts on the scale of Gunderson hoppers. Now, what are the Gunderson hoppers, Steve? The Mom and Son Train Rail Fans small HO layout is all done with Bachmann Easy Track and the Easy Command Control Center they're using to operate the trains now. If you have not looked at their layout, it's really impressive, guys. So definitely give them a sub. And everybody that's on here that has been participating with these streams, please give all the channels a subscribe and show them some love, please. Really would love to see some of the guys, to have a few extra subs. Trainman 1993, thank you for welcoming everybody on. Always appreciative. Any model railroad questions that you guys have, whether if it's, trying to buy something or just maybe how to repair something, or even just in general on what to look for, or maybe how to rebuild something, please ask, because I might be able to answer the questions, or maybe even somebody on the chat might be able to help you out as well. So, Steve Casey comes and says, they are 5188 covered hoppers used to haul grain. I have plenty of them on my layout. Oh, awesome. Yeah, with scale trains, I don't expect anything less. They do really good work. So continue to bring in the questions, guys. Just waiting for everybody else to come on in. Standard Gauge Railroader asks, O gauge versus G, which is better? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for in terms of size, like size of the train, or size of the room? In my opinion here, O gauge is good. That's 148 scale. G gauge is 129 scale of the real deal. G gauge stands for garden. O gauge is generally used with inside. And I prefer O gauge because you can do more with it. G gauge is up there in price. For O gauge, Lionel for the win. Lionel is the way to go. For G gauge, it's LGB, which is the primary manufacturer of G gauge, which is made in Ensland, West Germany. I have one small G gauge set. That's actually a good size when it comes to like younger children. O gauge and G gauge are perfect because it's easy to re-rail onto the track, and they're really easy to assemble as well. I had a G gauge set when I was a kid. That set wore out, and then I was able to find another one. So yeah, G gauge is good, O gauge is good, but I'll tell you right now, it's all about the price. Virginia Railfan Productions comes in. What's going on, man? Haven't seen you in a while. Happy Labor Day to you. Was a happy Labor Day to everybody here on the chat. This is great. But G gauge is fun to play with. Even O gauge is good as well. I do more O gauge. O gauge you can do a lot with. G gauge is meant to be outside, but there are a lot of model railroaders that use it on the inside as well. G gauge takes up a lot of space in a room. O gauge takes up some space, but G gauge takes up a lot of room. So just to just piggyback along on that. Standard Gauge River, thank you for welcoming Virginia Railfan Productions in. And same with Trainman 1993. Guys, continue to ask the questions. There's plenty of time. Lots of time for you guys to ask these good questions. So please continue to ask away. And I love when you guys get creative. Someone put them chickens up in the house. Man, that was good, man. Standard Gauge Railroaders' comment was pretty good. And actually, that is true. I have been to some places that have a G gauge layout in their home. There's a fellow that actually lives about an hour from me who has a little bit of G gauge, and it's like one half of his room is G gauge and the other half is HO, but the entire bottom downstairs is O gauge. It's pretty cool. Stephen KCS, should Atlas do CSX 9280, which is the freshly renumbered -8? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Virginia Railfan Productions asks, have you thought about doing a garden railroad using G gauge? Well, me personally, no. I know some guys who have done it. Now, that's a fun gauge to do outside. The G stands for garden, as I've mentioned earlier. There are a lot of guys who do it on the outside, and some just do it on the inside. And some guys, you know, when they do it on the inside, you know, they ballast the track in the middle. But LGB track is so cool because you've got the little plastic wooden ties on there. Really cool. Thomas Shenanigans comes in. What's going on, man? Excited for the new scale trains AC44. Yes, I can't wait to see those. I cannot wait to see those. Trainman 1993 asked, do you want to see some CSX 70 Max and O gauge? I would love to see Lionel do another run of those. Lionel has done them in the past, and Lionel has done nothing but good renditions of them. They've done the 80 Max in the past. They've done SD60s in the past. I would really love to see the 70 Max done by Lionel again. I would not even mind seeing Atlas do them again. Favorite model railroad layout, publicly, not privately. Are you talking about a public owner, or are you talking about somebody who is public, which means anybody in general, or ones I've seen on YouTube? Oh, nice, Steve. Got the CP AC40 for 100 pre-order from Scale Trains. That's going to be good. I've been getting back to Standard Gauge Railroaders' comment. I have actually been seeing a lot of layouts over time. I have seen some nice O gauge layouts. I have seen nice HO scale layouts. One of the nicest ones that's actually the train store that's local. the one over at Dale's. I actually like that one because it's actually one of only, I think, 2 or 3 in existence of that style, and it was a showroom layout that all the department stores got, and that's just a really cool layout to look at. I've done videos of it in the past, but hopefully soon I'll go over there one day and take another video of it because it's a really cool layout with lots of cool stuff. I'll definitely see if I can do another video of that real soon. Got some more comments coming in. Thomas Shenanigans says, I've been looking out for some really good looking Dash 8 engines, but can't find any. The Dash 8s have been kind of hard to find. They haven't done any renditions of those in a long time. But I will say this much. That if CSX 9280 can be done, been done in an HO form, I'd be one of the first to buy it with DCC and sound. Virginia Railfan Productions does comment on some says, if you're talking about a private one, there are 2x4 layout connected to a door layout, which is still in progress, and yes, end scale. Very cool. Very cool. I'll look at the comments here in just a second. All right, so we've got some more. Trayman 1993 asked, your opinion on the Lionel G-Gauge items from the 80s to 90s. I forgot Lionel did G-Gauge. It's not talked about, but Lionel did a pretty good rendition of G-Gauge stuff. It didn't last very long, but they did pretty good. I would not mind seeing them do more G-Gauge stuff in the near future because they brought back HO Gauge a few years ago, and they're still working with that some, and I'm really glad to see Lionel re-enter the market with HO Gauge. But if they re-enter G-Gauge, I would be really curious to see what they do next. So guys, please continue to ask questions. There's plenty of time, so don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. Please continue to come on in and ask questions. So I'm just waiting on some more guys to come on in and ask more questions. So I'm sitting back here just relaxing a little bit, and we're going to have a little bit more fun. All right, Steve KC comes back and says, I have a few KCS hoppers that should arrive this week. Very cool. Getting back to getting more hoppers for the KCS grain trains. Yes! KCS grain trains are where it's at. Have all those company hoppers, like 100 of them on a consist, and then have like 2 ACEs pull it. You got yourself a good consist. And Matt Consul says, yeah, same here. And yes, the only Lionel G gauge I have is the Lionel Rio Grande 060T in my collection. Wow. That's a collector's item. That's a collector's item because Lionel G gauge is barely even talked about anymore. It's sad, but let me tell you something. Lionel, I really hope re-enters that market for G gauge because the only G gauge manufacturers I can think of are, let me think, USA Trains and LGB. If there's any other G-Gauge manufacturers that I'm missing, please tell me. I think it's just LGB and USA Trains now. Oh man, Steve, you can find a KCS Ace in the Southern Belle. Yeah, you have a good ace right there. Pull all those cars around the layout. Oh yeah. Have an ace attack, 2 aces, and pull a company grain train. Yeah, you're in business if you have that. Trainman 1993 comes back and says, I hope so too, man. I know MTH used to make some, and Bachmann makes G Gauge as well. I forgot that. I forgot Bachmann had a small line of it. I knew USA Trains produced it, and I knew LGB did. But I forgot Bachmann had their own line of G Gauge products. So continue to ask questions, guys. This is a really good start. We're going to continue this for another little bit as well. Virginia Railfan Productions asks a pretty interesting question. What is your negatives about model railroading? For example, intimidation factor, getting under the bench work, etc. Well, that's a really good question. Well, I really don't think there's any negatives toward model railroading. It can be expensive at times, but aside of that, it's a lot of positives with it because you learn about, using your tools, circle saws, drills, whatever. You can draw your own plan. You can do so much with this. I mean, you can even make mountains that you can learn. You can learn a lot about the scenic work, ballasting track. There's a lot of cool things that you can learn with this and learn how model trains work. Taking an engine apart and fixing it. That's always a plus. There's a lot of cool things that you can learn about how the model railroad hobby works and maybe even learn some weathering and things like that. And it's pretty cool what you can learn with this. But I really don't think there's not many negatives to model railroading. I really don't think so. Thoughts on the Bachmann G Gauge GP38-2? I haven't seen pictures, but I can only imagine. that they've got a good rendition. Excuse me. So keep the questions coming, guys. This is good. This is real good. So, yeah, I've really forgot Bachmann did their own line of G Gauge. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do with model railroading, guys. It's a lot of cool things that you can do. You want to see Bachmann make the ACS 64 in O gauge for their Williams line. That would be cool. And I tell you right now, they have done a good rendition of the Siemens turbochargers. And I believe Kato has done the ACS 64 in N scale. And that looks pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing it in the O gauge line. And I forgot that Williams was bought by Bachmann some years back. And they've continued the Williams name. It's like it is with K-Line and American Flyer. Lionel produces those products under those names, but through Lionel. Now, Stephen Casey asks, should Bachmann do HO Amtrak Superliners? I would love to see those. I know Kato has done those in the past, and I would not mind seeing like an F40PH set and have like 4 or 5, like 6 Superliners with it, and all in Phase 3 as they were originally delivered. Because I'll tell you right now, I would love to see one of those sets. Thoughts on K-Line electric trains? K-Line, in my opinion, is very similar to Lionel. Their tooling was almost identical. I mean, I could look at it for days, but in my opinion, the tooling that Lionel and K-Line had were so similar. I have a couple of K-Line pieces, and K-Line produced good trains back in the day. Oh, man. Oh, man. I just love K-Line trains. I always have. I never knew much about their engines. Engines for me is Lionel, but K-Line produced a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. And that's a brand that no one talks about anymore. They forgot K-Line existed. And another brand that some people forgot about was Weaver. Weaver did a lot of O gauge stuff, and they went out of business, and Atlas took over bought the tooling from Weaver when they went out of business. Uh, Stephen Casey asked thoughts on the Fox Valley GP60s, M's, and B's. Beautiful, and I believe that is the only locomotive that Fox Valley has ever produced. And for what I heard, I think Atlas bought Fox Valley. Now, thoughts on the LGB single dome tankers? Those look cool by LGB, in my opinion. LGB has some unique cars. Their passenger cars are really cool. The set I have is two passenger cars and an 040 steamer, and it looks really cool. The LGB stuff is very detailed, and I'm very impressed with it. Virginia Railfan Productions asked an interesting question. Does any company for N-Scale make EOTs? I'd love to get them. Well, I know Bachmann does the cars with the EOTs installed. I have one for HO. I imagine they do them for N-Scale. I was thinking Bachmann might do a car for N-Scale for that. I'm not sure about anybody else. If anybody else knows on the chat, please feel free to get back. Actually, please feel free to leave a comment here in the chat. Would love to know too. So keep the questions coming, guys. Keep it coming. Thoughts on the LGB 2040 Rahita Relay Baby Crocodile Electric? That's a cool locomotive. Now should Amtrak Genesis do Amtrak 42? Yes. DCC and sound. I'd love to see that. I have seen that locomotive one time, and I would love to see that locomotive again. So keep the questions coming. This is very enjoyable. This is very, very enjoyable. Oh, we just got a couple new comments. One of them is a new user, Real Rail Fan. Hey, man, how's it going? Mom and Son Train Rail Fans brought in something, and so did Trainman 1990. Real Rail Fans says, I have the exact same shirt, got it at the 2021 train days. Awesome, man. Thanks for the comment on the shirt. I appreciate it. She says, Ray's Pennsylvania DCC train, and that Ray's National Roads of Mexico DCC. The Pennsy is larger, and it seems to take the curves easier than the National Roads of Mexico engine. I know which one you're talking about. Why is this and still learning? Well, let me think on that for just a second. Well, it's the radius of the curve. Usually it's 18-inch radius and 22-inch curves, 22-inch radius curves. The larger locomotives need the extra bend because they're much longer. The smaller locomotives, you can make them 22-inch curves, and you would already accommodate both the smaller locomotives, which like that little GP locomotive, and a locomotive like that E8 or like my SD60E. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Let me go grab a couple of locomotives, and I will be right back. Hang on one second, guys. Let me take a look at some of the comments up here. Okay, to answer Tammy's question here about how the curves the locos negotiate the curves. Well, I use 22-inch radius curves. See, here's one of my 4-axle locomotives up here. This is my Athearn Genesis GP39X by Athearn Genesis, and this locomotive can negotiate 18-inch curves or a 22-inch curve. I recommend the 22-inch curve because, let's say you have a locomotive like this, and also my Athearn Genesis 60E, for example, which this locomotive has to require 22-inch curves because of the length of the locomotive, and plus it takes that locomotive longer to turn. So that's why they recommend for the longer locomotives a 22-inch curve. It's like it is with a lot of other locomotives. If you get the 22-inch curve, it will negotiate the turns a little bit better. But like an 18-inch curve on like a 4-axle locomotive is perfectly fine. If it's 22-inch radius for a 4-axle locomotive, it's fine. That's mostly been the standard. For N scale, right now I have an 11.25-inch radius, and that's been pretty much the standard. So, anyway, I hope this answers your question. If it does not answer your question, please leave a comment, and if it does, please leave a comment as well. So, Richmond Rail fans on, what's up, man? Good to see you here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Glad to see we've got some new guys up here. That's great, man. Glad to see Richmond Rail fan has made his return as well. So, yeah. And, now, Tammy, to get back onto this for just a second, I know that E8 is not as long as my SD60E that I have here. But the longer the engine is, the much wider curve it's going to need to allow for it to make the complete loop. My SD40-2s, as most everybody has seen, that takes a 22-inch radius. It could get by with an 18-inch radius, but I went ahead and just like put the 22s down to negotiate everything. So these are just a couple of examples of some of the negotiations of the locomotives. Most 4-axles can negotiate a 22-inch radius, and the 6-axles will negotiate a 22-inch. I've gone with a 22-inch for years, a 22-inch radius, and I have had zero problems whatsoever. So, yeah. So I really hope this does clarify. So, Richmond Railfan asks, did you ever figure out how to pair DCC locomotives together with Easy Command and not have both units honking? Well, I never figured it out, but I do know a way that you can do it. So, way I would do it is you could have your lead locomotives have sound and have a trailing locomotive run as your second locomotive. That's what I've done. Like, my CSX-70 Mac being paired with my NS911. So that's what I decided to do, was just to have some locomotives with just DCC and have them as my trailing locomotives. And just have my lead locomotives have sound. That's the way I'll work around that. Now, the Mom and Son Trains Rail fans, she just responded, it seems that the axles are more giving on the Pennsylvania than the national roads in Mexico. What do you mean by giving? Do you mean it's turning better or turning not as much? B&B Railroad is a new user, and what's going on, man? And Richmond Railfan says usually, okay, that's perfect. Okay, perfect. So you're saying the Pennsylvania Road negotiates it better? Let me think about that a second here. If it's negotiating better, okay, all right. Just trying to think now on how that can move up with that. It should negotiate with it fine. Tammy, if you would mind sending me a private video of that just on your own time, that would be fine, where I can be able to take a look at it a little bit closer. If you don't mind, please. Oh, this is former Charles Bond. What's up, man? Love the new profile. Love the new profile, man. Man, glad like the profile picture as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. And Tammy, you're welcome. If you will just take a little video of it and send it to me privately, that would be great. Thoughts on the Lionel Postwar Alco FAs? I've got to say, gorgeous. I love them in the Union Pacific paint, and love them in the Union Pacific paint the best. If y'all will excuse me a second, I'm going to put these away real quick, and I will be right back. Keep asking questions, guys. And also to clarify on Tammy's answer, here is one of my SD40-2s. It's my Merc Sealant that's made by Athearn, ready to roll. This locomotive I have used with a 22-inch radius for a while, and it negotiates it just fine. So, oh yes, the Erie 2032 is probably my next favorite out of all the Alcos that Lionel produced, Matt. Good point. Stephen KC says, hopefully the next run of Scale Trains ES44s arrive late September, early October. Looking forward to getting CSX 911. That's a beautiful locomotive. Beautiful locomotive. So, but guys, locomotives like an SD40-2 in HO scale, it'll negotiate a 22-inch radius without a problem. That's always good. Even if you don't want to change your curves, you can just expand the oval a little bit on each side with just a straight piece of track, and the curves will work just fine. I've actually did it both ways, and both ways do work. I just figured it out just playing with it. You know, I just like to play with it some. And that's sometimes what you got to do is play with it and figure it out. I mean, I've done that a whole lot of times. Whole lot of times. So. Ready Company Productions comes in. Hey, man, how's it going? Great to see you on here, as always. It's good to see everybody up here. So, I'm going to put the locomotive away real quick. Keep asking the questions, and I'll be right back. And, Matt, you're good. No worries. So, all right, Trainman 1993 comes back in and says, you want to see the Merc Sealant 40-2 in G scale by USA Trains? Hey, that would actually be a really good rendition, too. And I know the N scale version has been produced, but I've not seen an O gauge version or a G scale version. I would not mind seeing that at all. So, that would actually be a really good rendition for someone to do. Not just USA trains, but I would not mind seeing LGB do it. Or Bachmann. So, yeah. So, keep the questions coming, guys. This has been wonderful. And I'm really glad to see that you guys are interested and want to ask these good questions. So, yeah. Had a notification there on my phone. Hang on, guys. I've got a little small issue here. Hang on 1 second. Just had to charge my phone up a little bit. All right, so we're back in business. I apologize for the couple of technical difficulties, but we're ready to rock and roll once again. A couple comments here from Trainman 1993 and Ready Company Productions. Hate being late to model road sessions, no worries. But regardless, has Kato allowed one to custom a road number on specific products? I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't see why not. I mean, if they wanted to do something custom, I don't see a problem why they wouldn't do it. Now I want to see some tunnel motors from G Scale and from USA Trains. I wouldn't mind it. I know they have done the 70 Mac in the past, and I would not mind seeing them doing something different on the EMD side. Oh, I know why, Matt. Only because I was thinking ordering Amtrak F40s with the different numbers at N scale. Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. I would not mind. I wouldn't even see a problem with that. I mean, you could probably talk with a representative up there and just go from there. I mean, Kato is good stuff, and you guys have seen my Kato Ace, and the Kato Ace I have is wonderful. I have not had any problems with it, and they have done the F40PH in HO scale as well. I love an F40PH, and I love the fact, it has the Phase 3 on there. That was the best scheme that engine ever wore, was Amtrak Phase 3. Now, Steve says, do you find it interesting on how model railroads use real-life train symbols for their model trains? That is legit. I know a few model railroads that do that, and Steve does it the same, and I think that's great because you've got a real-life railroad that's in your home, and I think it's wonderful. Now Trevor 93 asks, how about some EMD SD70 ACE Tier 4s being made in all the scales? Not really. That is actually one of my least favorite locomotives. I hate to say it, guys, but it's just not me. I prefer the GE Tier 4 for between that one and the EMD. GE has, to me, a better looking locomotive. And I love the Tier 4 that's being modeled in HO and N scale. Especially scale trains, and I believe Intermountain has done a rendition as well. But as far as another EMD goes, I would not mind. I would not mind seeing. There was another one that I would not mind seeing the Norfolk Southern Officer Special in a whole entire HO set. That was 270, 271, 275, and 276. I would not mind seeing that set in HO or N scale. Ready Company Production says he loves them all. I think that's wonderful, man. So keep the questions coming, guys. Tammy's got to leave the chat, but thank you very much. Tammy, you're welcome. Glad to help in any way I can. If you need me, just let me know. So we will go ahead and continue on with some more questions, guys, and we're continuing to have lots of good fun. Has any company made the P30CH in N scale or HO? Ready Company Productions asked this question. You know, I really don't think so. I really don't think so. That would actually be cool because that's one of those lost Amtrak locomotives from, like, I think the 70s or the 80s. I think the P30CH, I think, was the 70s. And that was a cool looking locomotive. Matt Console asked, you wouldn't see a rendition of the Tier 4 Jiva being made for Lionel and O-Gauge. And yes, I like both. It doesn't really matter. Lionel has done the ES44. I would not mind seeing them doing the Tier 4 GE. Because the Tier 4 GE is a sexy locomotive. Especially in the horsehead paint scheme. And I love it in CN paint. I've always loved CN paint on the GE Tier 4. It just catches my eye. Okay, Ready Company Productions clarifies this. 76 to 93 were the windows of the service for the P30s. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Mainly used on the auto train service. Yes, they were used on the auto trains, and I have seen the famous auto train too. Known to some of my friends, the flagship or the super bus. Just to throw a little fact in there between some friends of mine, we call Amtrak the bus. And then, of course, we call the auto train the super bus. Love seeing the auto trains. And there was a company called Auto Train back in the day, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of history on the auto train. I know this is model trains, but there was a company called Auto Train. And Amtrak got the rights to take over that, and Amtrak has used it ever since. It's a really cool train. It's literally a moving garage, and RCP is exactly right because you have the superliners and then you have the auto racks on the back. It's a really cool train. I've always loved the flagship. On this side, it's Amtrak 52 and 53. You want to see, Matt Console asked this question, do you want to see Athearn make their EMD Jeep 60 again in HO for their roundhouse line and maybe N scale? They did a really good rendition of the Jeep 60, especially the GP60Ms. I would love for Athearn to do those again because Athearn did a really good rendition of those. Excuse me. So, guys, continue to ask questions here. This has been great. Anyways, has Kato or Athearn made anything on the lines to the Amtrak Express reefers? Ready Company Productions asked this question. I don't think so. I don't think so. If anybody can clarify that, please do. And Steve asked, should Athearn Genesis do the P32 ACDM? I wouldn't mind seeing that, or the B32-8 WHs. I would not mind seeing those at all by Athearn Genesis because those were the famous Pepsi cans. And I love the -8s in Amtrak paint. B&B Railroad, that's Charles Bond. Recently purchased 3 switchers and he's listed them below. Alco RS3 diesel with Rio Grande, one in Boston and Maine, and one in New Haven, all with DCC wow sounds. Awesome. And I hear Bachmann sounds are pretty good. They really took that off in 2012 when they did their rendition of the Norfolk Southern Heritage Fleet, which I was very glad to see. And Ready Company Productions throws in a fun fact. Amtrak B32s were originally outfitted with strobe lights, if anyone didn't know. Actually, that is actually true, and I remember learning about that as well. And an emergency beacon. I didn't know about the emergency beacon. And B&B said they sound awesome. And I would like to ask this, Charles, do you recommend Bachmann wow sounds for like a beginner model railroader? Maybe somebody who's just getting into the hobby? Just would like to ask that real quick. And of course, before the ditch lights for the earlier Genesis, they had the 3 strobe lights on top of the cab. And they would flash. And then once the ditch lights were introduced, those were taken off, and then they were replaced with the ditch lights in the 1994 requirement by the FRA. And Charles Bond recommends Bachmann Wow Sounds. When was the last time you've been to a model train show? This past winter. And hopefully this fall I may get the chance to go to one. So, yeah. I love looking at model train shows because you meet a lot of the cool vendors. You also get to talk with them personally on what they've done and what they sell. And you can actually get some good model railroad tips from some of these guys who've especially been in the hobby a long time. And you get to kind of build like a little business relationship with them, which I think is kind of cool. Now, for the Genesis, there were actually 2 recessed strobe lights. One in the middle was an emergent, and the one in the middle was an emergency beacon. I didn't know that. That's cool, man. Thanks for the fun fact. This is great. I love seeing fun facts a little bit every now and then, guys. So if you have a fun fact on this, I strongly suggest it. I mean, Mr. Gabriel has actually thrown in some fun facts on some of the Amtrak locomotives. And I think that's very cool. So if you have fun facts, let me know. Steve says he's got one coming up in December. Haven't been to one since 2019 due to the pandemic. Hey, it's a good chance to go. And always happy to inform. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. So, guys, continue to ask the questions, and let's continue to have just a little bit of fun. Just really glad to see all you guys are up here. So, please continue to ask questions. Now, Trainman 1993 is thinking about going as well. And you're fine, bud. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm out groove and fixing to do some major switching. Peace out. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for the awesome recommendation on Bachmann Wow Sounds. Thank you very much, bro. I appreciate it. So we're going to continue this for another little bit. So, guys, please continue to ask questions. And the floor remains open. I'm going to top off my beverage, and I'll be right back. And Reddit Company actually throws in a quick fun fact here. Just about everything on Amtrak back in the day was outfitted with strobe lights. Awesome. Thank you for the fun fact. Most of the revenue locomotives. Yeah, that's like the F40s, the early Genesis. Oh, yeah. Except for the STP 40Fs. Awesome. Steve KC says, may get the Walters NS Ace to pair with my order Walters NS Ace 1033. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, guys, continue to ask questions. We're going to continue this for another little bit. So if you guys have more questions, come on down and we'll ask away. So, yeah, this is great. This is great. Now, Trim 1983 is thinking about going to another one. That's awesome. If you have the chance to go to a train show, guys, go. Because I will be honest with you, it's really cool to see the different vendors, and also you get to see running layouts as well, which is always really cool to go around and also look at some of the layouts that they have. And looking at the layouts is cool. And I would like to stress this a little bit if you don't mind. But going to train shows is awesome. You can buy some things if you want to, but you can look at the other layouts and get some ideas for yourself. Like maybe, oh, this one looks pretty good, or hey, this looks pretty cool right here too, man. Thoughts on the Lionel Scout engines like the 1130. The Lionel Scout series is not too awfully talked about, but that was a pretty cool series that Lionel ran back in the day. And Steve says, yeah, train shows can sometimes have rare locomotives and rolling stocks. Yes, You can find some hard to find items, guys, and you can find them right there. You can find anything at a train show. It's basically a full warehouse. And I have got friends that will linger around every single table, every inch of the show. And I'm proud to say I am one of them. And Renting Company throws in a fun fact, went to the Egg Harbor City 4-H Club show, and it was very interesting. Cool. Mix and match of HO and N scale. I was a member of that club for about 2 years. Awesome. Awesome. And one of the ways you get involved with more of this is get involved with a club. And that's where I get most of my rare stuff from. I think that's cool, man. That's real cool. So, guys, continue to ask the questions. We're going to continue this for just a little bit more. So if you have a few more questions, I will be glad to answer them. Now, on the Amtrak EMD SDP40F, you want to see this being made in O, S, and G. I would not mind seeing the O gauge rendition. I would not mind seeing the O gauge rendition. I think actually, I know for a fact they've been produced in N scale, and I also know that I think they've been produced in HO scale. Renting Company just sent in something else. Hold on a second. Prefer them in HO and possibly O, but not too much G. Yeah, and I would not even mind. I would not mind continuing seeing them in N scale, because I know Kato has done a beautiful rendition of the SDP40F in N scale. Kato is good. They're known for HO and N scales. They do more engines than they do cars. They've done a lot of freight engines in the past. They do a lot of Amtrak stuff. Thoughts on the Bachmann Steam era box cars in both N and HO. Beautiful renditions. Beautiful renditions. And Bachmann, like I've said in live streams in the past, they have really stepped up their game. When they came out with DCC Sound Value, they have really stepped up their game. And I am very, very impressed with what they have done over time. I love the fact that they want to continue to step up their game and stepping up and trying to compete with Athearn and Atlas and scale trains and everything. I'm really glad to see Bachmann is doing that. Would love to see more NS first responder cars done in HO. Steve, I cannot agree more. Renting Company says, I love N-scale, the most you can make with your own miniature railroad empire without congesting too much space. That's another factor that was discussed earlier. I'm really glad you bring this up. N-scale, you can do a lot with it. HO, you can do a lot with it. And thoughts on ON30 stuff? ON30 is almost the same size as HO, and that's a pretty cool gauge that no one talks about. Well, it's talked about a little bit, but not very often. But that's a pretty cool little gauge. I think Eric's Trades has a small loop of ON30. So, like I said, guys, we'll continue this for about another few minutes, and then we will go ahead and end it. So if you have any last-minute questions or last-minute fun facts that you would like to share with the group, please do so. The stream's going to end right around 5 o'clock tonight. So any last-minute questions that you may have, you may ask them real quick. And yes, Eric has done mostly O gauge, and he does some HO. I don't think he's done N scale, but I do know he's done a little bit of ON30, some HO, but mostly O gauge. About 95% of it is O gauge, and his layout is incredible. I don't know how that man does it, but he is one smart man. So, yeah. I like watching Eric's trades. He does great reviews. Yeah. So, but like I said, ON30 is pretty cool, especially if you're doing like a Western theme. ON30 is perfect for it. And ON30 is almost the same size as HO. So, but it's really cool to look at the ON30 stuff, especially if you're doing like a Western theme. That's perfect for it. And Trainman 1993 is heading out. Have a happy Labor Day, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Now, should the ACC be done in HO and N scales? Oh yes, I would do a lot, especially 1800, 1801, and even a few of the regular ones like 1820, 1825, just to name a few. I would love to see one of those because those are beautiful locomotives with some beautiful K5 LAs. I would love to see Genesis do their rendition, and I would not mind seeing Kato doing one in HO and N scale. Wouldn't mind seeing that. So, yeah. Would love to see that. So, guys, we've still got about another 5 minutes before we close this out. Any last-minute questions that you may have, you can go ahead and ask those real quick as we continue to wind down. A couple of announcements that I will share as we close this out. I do have projects in the lineup. I just got to get them rolling and everything. So, I will be updating the chat of the community section when all that happens. This series will be continued monthly. My regular Q&A series will be done every quarter now. So this month I'm actually taking off the Q&As and allowing myself to transition to the new way we're going to do it, and also start it on October 1st, and that will go for the rest of the year. And then the next one will start in January. That's going to be every 3 months. So it's going to be great, guys. It's going to be more opportunities where you can ask pretty much any question. But Model Railroad Mondays will always be a monthly thing because that has been a huge hit. A few last-minute comments. Hope to see more NS Heritage units done by Scale Trains. I agree with Steve. Highball Productions, what's up, man? Are there any companies that make different fuel tanks for locomotives, more especially for N-scale in the EMD variants? This has been a question on me. I'm just trying to think here. I know Athearn might be doing them, and I think Kato might be doing it. You might have to find them in their parts department. What specific tank are you looking for, Matt? Are you looking for like an F7, an F40, a -9? I mean, just wonder what fuel tank you're looking for. Hopefully they make those in the parts section on their website. I know Athearn sells parts for their stuff, and that's pretty good. Some of the parts that I've needed have come from Athearn. I've been able to get the parts and fix whatever. Oh, the F59 PHI series tank. Okay. Now, what's the brand of your locomotive? Is it Kato, or is it Bachmann or Lifelike? Because I imagine Athearn and Kato should have those in their parts section on their website. If not, you might be able to score one on eBay. Some of the F4s received those in the mid-service overhaul. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, Kato should have those in the parts section. If not, you might want to maybe they should have an online chat where you can talk with someone, or you may have to call the parts department, or you can actually ask your local hobby retailer or your local train store that's licensed to repair Kato. And they might be able to help you a little bit more closely. But try the website first, because on the website you can basically look at it all day, every day if you needed to. So, but Cato should have the parts right there on their website, and you should be able to get those directly from Cato in a pretty timely fashion. So, guys, as we continue to wrap this up, this has been great to see everybody on here. It's great to see everyone. I'm glad to see that you guys are really liking this stream. Not sure there's a model train store in Williamson. Let me see what I can try to figure up. I might be able to try to find something. So, yeah. I know there's one here, near here, however. Okay, good. So if you have a hobby shop that's close, they might know somewhere where they might be able to snag one of those for you. But I can look to see if I can find one, maybe just out of curiosity. But, so from that, that will end this month's Model Railroad Mondays. As always, guys, please remember to hit the like button, drop a thumbs up, smash the like button, drop the comments down below, guys. Love to see when comments coming in. Please remember to click that subscribe button if you have not yet already subscribed, and also ring the bell for notifications on the upcoming releases that I do have. The projects are getting ready to heat back up. So, Brandon Company, it's always great to see you and great to see everybody here, and we will definitely do it next month. And thanks for having me on. You're welcome, my friend. Glad to be assistance. Steve, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight, and we'll definitely be doing this again next month. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful and enjoyable Labor Day, and I will see you guys down the main. And I wish all of you guys clear signals ahead.